More speaker. Our next guest is a true philanthropist. Kenneth Fisher is chairman and CEO of the Fisher House Foundation, a not-for-profit organization that constructs comfort homes for families of hospital, military personnel, and veterans. Founded in 1919 by his late uncle Zachary Fisher, the program has built 63 houses in the United States and Germany and partnered with the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Birmingham, in the United Kingdom. Fisher houses serve more than 22,000 families each year and have saved more than $200 million in lodging and travel costs since inception. The foundation also administers Hero Miles program, allowing frequent flyers to donate their unused airline miles to provide free tickets to military families, and the Hotel for Heroes program. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to a true friend of veterans and military families, Kenneth Fisher.
Thank you. I want to thank National Commander Dan Dellinger for giving me the opportunity to be with you today in this beautiful city, because it's not every day that you get to say thank you to so many people in the same place at the same time. But today I have that chance. You have supported me, you have educated me, and most importantly, you have defended me. So let me begin my remarks by saying thank you for your service. I continue to be inspired by your wisdom and your ongoing service to your fellow veterans, and I'm grateful for the sacrifices that you and your families have made on behalf of freedom. And I feel privileged to be able to honor those sacrifices by leading an organization that aids our servicemen and women, veterans, and their families in their time of need. For 25 years, the Fisher House Foundation has built a network of comfort homes where families can stay at no cost while a loved one is receiving treatment. Maybe you've seen one of our homes away from home, visited someone there, or needed to use one yourself. They're all within walking distance of major military and VA medical centers nationwide. We built 2 in Germany at Landstuhl Regional Medical Center, and as you heard, in 2012, we opened one in the United Kingdom to aid the families of our British allies. So the Fisher House brand has now become global. My uncle Zachary Fisher, thank you. My uncle Zach Fisher founded the Fisher House program because he had a passion for helping veterans. He called them America's greatest national treasure, and he was right. From the islands of the Pacific to the beaches of Normandy, from the villages of Korea to the jungles of Vietnam, the deserts of Kuwait and Iraq to the mountains of Afghanistan, you have fought to uphold American ideals and to protect this country's freedom. You are the guardians of all this nation holds sacred. And this nation has a sacred responsibility to you and to all veterans, to care for your physical and emotional wounds and create opportunities for service members returning with the same rigor and determination with which you serve this nation. So when I think about the past few years and how organizations charged with fulfilling that responsibility failed, I feel pretty angry, and I know you do too. Scandals hindered access to the medical care and mental health services veterans earned honorably. Weeks, months, sometimes years went by as men and women who served their country went without the care they needed and had earned. Bureaucracy and political infighting left military families who made the ultimate sacrifice, the loss of a loved one in uniform without critical death benefits. Sequestration continues to threaten not only our national security, but also the wallets of our military families through reduction to important benefits and incentives, all the while pink slips being handed out on the battlefield. but with the problems associated with the VA once again at the forefront. I sense these issues are finally gaining traction. As a matter of fact, the other day, the President stood before you and announced more initiatives. So as we stand at the proverbial crossroads, again, we have a choice. You can continue to feel let down, disappointed, forgotten, and overlooked. We can let our anger and distrust of a failed system grow. Or we can look for pockets of good, and in this country, there is always good to be found, and be inspired to engage the vast, untapped resources within our communities and ourselves to bring about change. Under the leadership of Secretary McDonald, it's time to forge a new path, one that's paved not only by refocusing government leadership, but also by redoubling the commitment of companies and re-engaging communities. The American Legion has said the VA is a system worth saving. I agree. Even with its problem, our system has for generations served veterans well. And it has long been the envy of our allies who look to us not just for guidance and leadership, but for cutting-edge techniques in treating our wounded warfighters. So it's time to rededicate ourselves to those words spoken by Lincoln that are memorialized on a plaque that greet all who enter its front doors, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan. It's time we get serious about the VA's core mission. It's time we put veterans first and military families first. Now, I know over the last three days you've heard that a lot. But the time has come that we back these words up with action. Action that's meaningful, that's doable, and more importantly, that's sustainable. So how do we fix what's been broken and build a system that will be a source of innovation and pride going forward? First, let's start with the obvious. We need to clean the corrosive culture at the VA and simplify it so the administration can focus on what it was created to do: provide excellent health care, administer comprehensive health insurance and benefits to veterans. Second, let's replace a failed bureaucratic mindset with a bottom-line business mindset. I believe Secretary McDonald is well positioned to do this, based on his military service and his career in the private sector, helping to build one of the world's most recognized brands. And third, we need to get down to business strategically, implementing changes today that will last well into the future. Earlier this month, I was fortunate to be with National Commander Dellinger at the bill signing of the VA emergency funding bill, one of the few bipartisan initiatives in recent memory. It appropriates $16.3 billion to address the problems within the VA. But just to be clear, financial resources were never the issue. Corruption and mismanagement were. Now, I want to be unequivocal in saying that our veterans deserve every penny of these funds. But under the new leadership, the VA needs to be careful not to fall into that age-old pattern of throwing new money at old problems. It needs to spend cautiously and wisely so that every dollar invested produces a return on that investment. It must also set a strategic framework for a revitalized VA that will meet the needs of our veterans for generations to come. For example, the law includes funding for the VA to lease or build new medical facilities, along with stringent requirements for budgetary compliance. Now, this kind of oversight needs to be extended to the VA's ongoing construction projects, which have a track record of running millions of dollars over budget and coming in years beyond deadline. Now, I agree with the American Legion. As a matter of fact, we spoke about this at the bill signing. And I would suggest that the VA not be in the construction business at all. It's just one example of a non-core function that takes up exorbitant amounts of manpower and money, and it diverts attention from the VA's primary mission. The VA could save costs, not cut costs, but save costs, by working with outside construction managers, collaborating with other departments such as the DoD, whose health facility planners build military medical facilities, or creating innovative public-private partnerships with proven infrastructures to help rein in budgets on facility upgrades and other projects. And it could use just a fraction of the savings to incentivize good performance. I'm not using the word bonus. This is done with success in the private sector. I'm a real estate developer, we do it, and it's done as a smart business move that can help focus people while bringing down the bottom line. Money saved by letting go of costly and cumbersome non-core projects could also be allocated by the VA for mission-critical work, such as funding research and development for cutting-edge treatment, achieving interoperability between the IT systems of the VA and the Department of Defense to reduce waiting times and help eliminate the benefit gaps that have existed far too long. Getting ahead of the curve on mental health issues that affect today's veterans as much as they do the heroes who paved the way for us to talk openly about the issue. The new law also allocates funds to hire more doctors and nurses. Now, when it does so, the VA must look for skills and experience that match the needs of all its constituents, from fitting prosthetic limbs lost to IEDs, to treating cancers resulting from exposure to Agent Orange, to managing the mental wounds resulting from the horrors of war. And the law also gives the Secretary broader power to fire top-level employees for incompetency or mismanagement. Now, yeah, I agree with that. This is critical to running any successful business. If the right people are not in the right job, you have a failed model. Restoring leadership and working strategically to create efficiencies, strengthen infrastructure, and double down on customer needs. These are business-minded ways for the VA to eliminate its bureaucracy, focus on its core mission, and bring integrity back to the system. So in short, simplify it. The VA should also look to engage corporate partners with a vested interest in a strong America to help fill the gaps. To be clear, achieving a strong America takes more than a world-class military equipped to respond to challenges abroad, because every day we are reminded of what a dangerous place this world is. It also requires world-class care and benefits and civilian opportunities to prepare veterans to enter the job market when they come home, and that dignify their service as well as their family sacrifices. As we have seen, this doesn't always happen. One morning while watching the news, I learned that the death benefits had been withheld from the families of soldiers who had died during the government shutdown. And like everybody who saw it, I felt sickened and outraged. While political infighting and partisan politics kept the government shut down, Fisher House stepped up and offered to pay the death benefits, so families who had sacrificed so much could honor their loved ones with the dignity that they deserved. It wasn't something that we did for profit or for political gain. It spoke to our mission and just had to be done. Underlying this was a moral imperative, one that weighs heavy upon us, to seek to repay just a fraction of the debt that we owe those who daily defend the freedoms that we often take for granted. Fisher House was well positioned to do this, not just financially, but operationally. We took advantage of our lean infrastructure and we were able to pivot while simultaneously keeping our core mission operational. This is because, and some of you may have heard me say this before, the Fisher House model is beautiful in its simplicity. By focusing on a straightforward mission, staying accountable to our constituents and leveraging our purchasing power and committing to quality, we've been able to provide more than 5 million days of lodging to almost 220,000 military and veterans families while saving them an estimated $235 million in total lodging and transportation costs. We've seized opportunities and created new ones to expand our work, all while keeping our administrative costs at 4% of the donated dollar. So it comes down to two basic concepts. It's focus and it's efficiency. These are the strengths of the private sector. From Verizon working with the City of New York in the wake of 9/11 to fuel the generators that helped the first responders, to the Red Cross teaming up with FEMA and local organizations to deliver emergency assistance to victims of Hurricane Katrina, we've seen that good can come from the private sector partnering with nonprofits and government to meet the ever-growing unmet needs. The private sector can also help government build bridges and inspire hope. Last month, I met with Prince Harry in London to discuss the Fisher House Foundation's sponsorship of the Invictus Games, the international sporting event held for wounded and rehabbing servicemen and women and veterans. 13 countries will come together and compete. They'll use the power of sport to inspire recovery, support ongoing rehabilitation, and celebrate the hard work and dedication to country and to self. They'll also educate the public about their journey to recovery in a framework that honors every competitor, and that's how it should be. There's a third component. The VA must gather and apply insight from the people on the ground who are most familiar with what veterans need. We have to continue to encourage and recognize service by good people everywhere, from the staff and volunteers of organizations like the American Legion and Fisher House, to the doctors and the nurses and the healthcare professionals who do such tremendous work caring for veterans and active duty servicemen and women, to the fundraisers who hold car washes and auctions, to the philanthropists who write the checks. And we must increase the engagement of veterans themselves, the heroes in every community who personify service, who believe in the greatness of this nation with every fiber of their being, who most importantly know the meaning of sacrifice, understand the physical, emotional, and logistical challenges of returning home from a grueling tour of duty, sometimes to a public that didn't care. For nearly 100 years, the American Legion has provided financial, social, and emotional support to veterans and members of the armed forces and their families. Whether it's joining with local agencies to hold job fairs for veterans, ensuring they get hired, offering scholarships to military children, providing assistance in the wake of natural disasters, or housing the homeless, you've been there. Your suicide hotline has been so vital in saving countless lives of veterans who suffer in silence. You've achieved retroactive payments for uncollected benefits, reopened closed cases, and restored hope when hope was lost. And you've been there for us time and again. When we opened our second home in Houston last year, Legionnaires delivered thousands of dollars worth of comfort items, gift cards, and household essentials to that new building. Palisades Post number 283 gave one of the largest donations ever. California, Los Angeles, to make the Los Angeles Fisher House a reality. And the Department of Pennsylvania, where are you? You led a remarkable grassroots campaign in support of the Pittsburgh Fisher House. You are, in fact, represented at every one of the 64 Fisher Houses around the world. You understand the needs not only as veterans, but as families, as friends, and as neighbors. So as the VA undergoes real reform, it needs to seek out the perspective of the very people it seeks to serve. With its finger on the pulse of veterans young and old, the American Legion knows where the needs are the greatest and what practices are best suited to meet them. Your perspective will be the asset that this secretary must have if he's going to turn things around. The past few years have been difficult. They've been painful for many of you and disappointing for us all. But through a renewed commitment of working together, each of us bringing to bear our unique strengths and insights, we can restore that focus and trust, and we as a nation can resume that sacred responsibility to the honor and care for you, our greatest national treasure. I urge you to continue to make your voices heard, stay engaged in the process, and ensure what comes out of it is finally a system that cares for you and a nation that honors for you. Thank you very much. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you for your time.
I'd like to thank you very much for coming to our convention. I'd like to give you a little token of that, but also I want to thank you for what you do for veterans and their families. It's and our servicemen and women. It's fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Give them another big hand.